Welcome back to another episode of Mindset Monday with me, Matt, where I share with you things that I've used over the last nearly 13 years to rebuild my life and to really understand myself and to make changes in my life, rebuild my marriage, rebuild my friendships, become a good father, everything I ever wanted in life. And this is how I did it. And it's not just applicable to someone who's trying to get sober or rebuild a marriage or anything else. This is applicable for anyone who wants to grow, because these lessons are really universal. They truly are. I think this stuff can help anyone that's willing to sit down and take the time to listen to them and then, institute them into their lives. And so it's just as helpful for you, the partner or spouse, or you random person who just happened to click on this podcast for whatever reason. We're going to be talking about pattern recognition today and how important it is to learn and understand how to recognize our own patterns. Because once we do that, we can name our problem. Once we name our problem, we can begin to do something about it. I was stuck in this weird gray area of life for a really long time where I wasn't where I wanted to be, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what needed to change. Part of it was that I just didn't have the visibility in my life that I do today. I wasn't as honest with myself back then as I am today. And that changed. And I'm going to share with you ways that you can do this. So it doesn't matter if you're trying to get sober or if you're trying to, let's say that you're in a relationship with someone, you keep getting sucked back in, the hopium's just got you, right? Let's say you're no contact and you want to stay that way. Or you say, how do I know I can actually trust someone? What does that actually look like? How do I stop myself from getting dragged back into these situations? How do I set boundaries and stick to them? How do I stick to a diet or my finances or whatever it is? This stuff is universal. I've used these lessons in every aspect of my life. And hopefully at the end of this, you'll have gained something that leads you on that path as well. Hey, thanks to Soberlink for sponsoring today's show. Soberlink is the world's greatest accountability device that looks like a breathalyzer. If you're someone like me and you're trying to rebuild trust in your relationship, you're going to need all the help you can get, because trust is lost in buckets and it's rebuilt in droplets. I didn't have Soberlink, and I kind of wish that I would have. I had to do it the old-fashioned way, right? Slowly changing behaviors over a very long period of time, and it takes years. Soberlink can actually expedite that process, and it's beneficial for you and your loved ones. First, how is it beneficial for you? Because you've got skin in the game now. You've got real accountability at stake because you volunteered to get this thing. You were so serious about your sobriety journey. Well, then put your money where your mouth is and put some skin in the game. You voluntarily get a device. You set up people in your network, and they get notified every time that you use it. So they know that you're doing the deal. They know it's different this time because you're actually doing something about it. No more words, no more I'll get around to it, no big, motivational speech at the end of the night and the next morning nothing changes. This time you're going to be tied to this thing. Get one of these things for a year. Do it for a year. Have those guardrails for a year. It's really beneficial, not just to you, but to your loved ones. It's a gift that you give them. You know how sick they are of looking for bottles and questioning themselves and us? Because they can't trust us, right? There's distrust in the relationship, and I earned every bit of it. I had earned all the distrust that existed, and I couldn't be mad at anyone but myself, really, at the end of the day. I could sit here and want to blame Paige for it, but how is it her fault that I lied and she believed me, right? Maybe the first time, shame on me, and then after that, but listen, I'm really good at what I do. You probably are too. And we are very talented liars, unfortunately. Give your loved ones the gift of visibility so they can see what's going on, so they no longer have to go search for bottles or wonder where you are. At the very least, they're going to know you're sober. Now, is it going to change the way you behave? Not necessarily, but it will get this piece out of the way so you can start to focus on that stuff. Because this is a huge hurdle for families to have to deal with. The what if, are they drinking? Are they not? Give them the gift of visibility. You can get these things. They used to be $500. They were not cheap. And then you had to get a monthly plan. Well, guess what? That's off the table too. Less excuses. Now, whenever you sign up for 1 year, you can rent the device for as little as $19 a month. That's it. No more upfront costs, $19 a month. And since you're a listener of this show, Soberlink is going to send you a $100 gift card to apply towards your monthly plan cost or whatever you want to use it on. So it decreases that cost as well. It's never been easier and cheaper to get into a Soberlink. And if you're someone who's in a position where you're just trying to keep your kids safe and you're already separated, you're divorced or you're getting divorced and you just want a stable custody agreement, something that you can trust someone when they're around your kids to be sober, Soberlink has always been there for you. They're trusted by over 200,000 people. It's court admissible in all 50 states and in Canada. You can actually get these things written into your custody agreements. So if you'd like to find out more, head over to soberlink.com/wheels. Enter your email address in, get that rebate. Again, that's soberlink.com/wheels. You can also check out tufo.com. We've got sweatshirts, we've got stickers, we've got hats, all kinds of stuff. And I've got some more stuff in the works, but I'm waiting on shipping. Shipping from China is not fun right now, but we're going to get there. I promise you. Hopefully it'll be nice and comfy this winter with some new merch. Thank you for everyone that supports the show. Like, I cannot thank you guys enough for the little things that you do help contribute to what we do here and make this stuff possible. And we really, really appreciate it. If I seem a little off, it's just because I'm really tired, like exhausted. We got up at 5:30 this morning, and my son had a baseball tournament, and I helped coach the team. So we had to drive about an hour to the fields, and we didn't get home till like 6 something. It was just 12 or 13 hours of baseball today, which I love. And there's really no better thing in the world. Nothing else I would rather do with my time. I'm just exhausted. And I know that he's exhausted. Haven't been sleeping well because my back, I've got about 8 hours in the last 2 days, I think. So I'm going to stumble, but I'm going to get through this. I'm going to do my absolute best. I've been thinking about this topic all day of pattern recognition. I got the chance to talk to a wheelie this weekend, actually, earlier in the weekend, about pattern recognition. Not when it comes to sobriety, we will talk about that, but when it comes to relationships. And it made me realize how important this lesson has really been for me throughout my life. I look at my life in sort of split into two halves, and it's not like when I got sober necessarily. It's when I started to get honest with myself about my own patterns and named the problems that I was having with those patterns. Once you name something, we can actually do something about it. If we don't know what's going on, we're just going to kind of operate from the midbrain and just live life and really not understand why we aren't where we want to be. I hope that through this, you can institute some of this stuff in your life and change it. But I think I always get interested, like when people know that the way that they're living isn't beneficial, like why don't our brains look out for us more? It seems like it's so easy to make poor choices. Maybe that's just me, but I don't think I'm alone in this. It's just so easy to make poor choices. Comfort feels good, and our brains like what feels good. And our brains are actually really, really lazy. They enjoy routine. And if the routine of your life isn't such that it's causing you massive problems, you probably have very little dissonance between what you know you should be doing and what you actually are doing. And this can wear on forever. In one of our episodes, we talked about the region beta paradox and how sometimes really difficult or bad events can actually be a good thing because they can push us toward change faster than they would otherwise be. Like, let's say that you're in a job and you don't love it, but you don't hate it, but you kind of operate in this weird zone where it's just tolerable. It's just lukewarm. And you do that for years and years and years, but in the back of your mind, you're always wanting more. It would almost be better if the company instituted layoffs, or better if you just made the leap and started that new business or applied to that new position, because it would force you to create the exit velocity needed to do something different with your life. It really would. It's almost like having a sprained knee versus a broken leg. Like the sprain, yeah, you can like tolerate it and deal with it and play through the pain, but it's going to take forever to heal, like forever, because you're never really going to do what's required to take the time off. If you just broke your leg, you wouldn't have a choice. And so in this weird way, these rough events actually push us toward making changes. If we can live in this sort of not quite miserable, not wonderful zone for too long, your brain just gets used to it. You have no clue how high your pain tolerance actually is. I guarantee there's things in your life right now that if you were to share with someone else what you've been dealing with for the last 10, 20, 30 years, they'd be like, oh my God, like I thought I had it rough, right? But we're really, really good at just kind of filing that stuff away and saying it is what it is. Like we're excellent at that. It's scary how good we are at that. And these blind spots in our minds form, and we tell ourselves a story rather than just facing the evidence, and we minimize things. We say, like, when it comes to substances, like, I can control it, it's not that bad. Or you'll say other people are worse, right? Like, that's a really big one. I mean, get some water. I feel some dry throat coming on. That was one for me. I was always comparing out to like other people. And you just kind of check them off as you go. It's like, well, I'm not as bad as him. And then once you get as bad as him, well, I'm not as bad as they are. And you have to keep going and going and going till there's really not much else to compare yourself to. By that time, it's usually too late anyway. But anyway, in psychology, pattern recognition is tied to metacognition. And this is sort of the ability to step outside yourself and to look at your life from a 30,000 foot view, the overhead view, right? The big picture, if you will. And you can notice loops and you can notice patterns. And once you name the loop, once you recognize the pattern and accept the pattern, that's going to be a really important piece, because a lot of people can see it, but they can't quite accept it. Once we name it, then we can activate the prefrontal cortex, that wonderful part of your brain that is responsible for decision making and not just reflex and tendency and ease and comfort. And I think naming it sort of turns these vague feelings into something concrete, something we can actually do something about. You can't solve feeling stuck, like I just feel stuck, but you can solve, I drink every Friday when I'm stressed. That is your pattern, and we can do something about that, which will then lead to you not feeling so stuck anymore. We're going to have a lot of examples like this. The first one, naturally, that I'll start with is addiction and sobriety. I'm not sure if hardly anyone's story is that the very first time you used, you just knew it was going to be really, really bad. And you, in a very short period of time, you were just completely off the rails. That is some people's stories. I don't mean to diminish that at all. I know some people have been there before, but a lot of times it's just more progressive. You've ever heard that analogy about the frog in water, which isn't true, but it's still a good analogy, I think. That if you throw a frog into boiling water, it will jump right out. But if you put a frog in a pot and you start to slowly boil it, the frog won't realize that it's being boiled and it'll just die in there. That's not true. Actually, they tested this frog. When it gets too hot, that dude's out of there. But either way, I think that that's a lot of times how addiction kind of progresses, is it's just slowly over time, the intake increases. And before you know it, your mind has made a billion excuses for why you do what you do and why it's not so bad. And we're really, really good at living in that region beta paradox zone where we can deal with some pain. We've got really high pain tolerance, and the stuff that would crush ordinary people is just a Tuesday to you. And that's just no big deal. I did this for the longest time. Like when I first started taking opioids, it was for an injury and I was taking them as prescribed. And then I realized that I really liked them. And if I took 2, it felt better. And then if I took 2 every 2 hours instead of 2 every 4 hours, it felt even better. And then I decided if I could just feel like this all the time and manage my life, I'm set. I feel good, which is what I wanted. I wanted to feel good. Like, who doesn't want to feel good, right? I never feel like I heard this guy, Gordon Keith, write this one time, and I thought it was just beautiful. He said he felt like he was always born 2 drinks shy of happiness. And man, that's like the most relatable thing in the entire world to me. I felt like I was born 2 pills or 2 drinks from happiness. And if I could just get that in my system, then I was good. But it creates a whole host of other problems. And addiction is progressive, partly because of the nature of substances. And the more you take, the higher your tolerance gets, which means you have to take even more, which oftentimes is more time, it's more money, it's more time away. And at some point, the substance kind of takes over and you can't manage this anymore. And you won't be a functioning whatever anymore. Not to mention, functioning is just sort of a term that we give ourselves. You're not really functioning. If you were to use 100% of what you're capable of, you're probably using like 30% now. Imagine how amazing you could be at everything that you want to do if you were giving yourself 100%, right? So I lived in this forever. And I was able to manage it for a very long period of time, quote unquote, manage it. At the very least, I got really effing good at hiding it, which meant I got really good at lying. So I became really accustomed to lying. I became accustomed to, oh God, I was a financial whiz because I had to move money around and come up with excuses for why it was where it was, the money I mean, and why I wasn't where I said I would be. And it was like a full-time job doing this. But I was also, a new parent, and I was in all the Facebook photos. We were young. And I think that some people can also come to accept the state of their relationships, that like, okay, at one point in my life, I totally thought we'd be close, and I imagined us like just like the happiest couple ever, like a couple that people would look up to. We're so happy. And then at some point you settle for less. And I was just settling. And I think Paige was doing the same. And we just became comfortable in like this really shitty situation. And I always thought there'd be some event that got me sober. And that's not the way it works. I tried 1,000 ways to manage this thing, 1,000 ways, maybe more than that. I tried everything, man. I think that rock bottom for a lot of people ultimately is the point at which they recognize the pattern of their life is such that it will never change until you arrest it. It's never going to change on its own. It didn't for me at any point. And anyone that I know, I've never known someone who was a real deal person with an addiction, like real deal addiction, and was able to stop for a period of time and then pick up and drink normally or use normally without consequences. Maybe they could handle it, but the people around them couldn't, right? And I think that's important to recognize as well. Other people in your life matter. And man, when I finally got sober, it was about pattern recognition. I sat down with someone and they started to really talk to me about this stuff, like the way that I used. And I was honest for the first time in my life about the amounts that I was using and how frequently I was using, and the way that I was always doing math in my brain about how many pills I had left. Or like liquor stores in Texas close on Sundays. I think they close at 9 p.m. I've forgotten now. It's either 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. on Saturdays. And I had to time everything just right so I could get to the liquor store on Saturday to make sure I had enough for Sunday. Like I'm always doing this math in my head, right? But it just becomes so normal for me. I didn't think much of it. I just became so used to this. When I finally got honest about the way I drank and I could look at the pattern of my life back at the very beginning and just start with something like volume and amounts, I could look at it and say, started slow and now it's bad. Like I'm taking at the very end, I was taking between 50 and 60 pills a day. And that wasn't even really to like get high. I was just trying to not get sick at that point. And I think that someone's going to hear that and be like, well, I'm not that bad. Well, you're not that bad yet. There's always a yet, right? You don't have a DWI yet. Your wife hasn't left you yet. You haven't been arrested yet. These things are more likely to happen at the very least. I think it's fair to say they're more likely to happen the more you put yourself in that situation. But I can look at the pattern in that and say the volume at the very least is increasing over time. That I can see. But I could try to rationalize that because there were periods where I was able to control it. But back up far enough, remember metacognition, let's back up 30,000 feet. What does that pattern say? Even though there were little blips, just like if you were to look at the S&P 500 over time, there are little downturns here and there. You can even look at like the 2008 crash and like there's a downturn. But if you back up that chart over a 30-year period, it's going one direction, northeast. It's moving up, right? That's what addiction does. And we love to look at these little microcosms, these little areas where we're able to control it and be like, well, that's proof I can control it, as opposed to backing up at 30,000 feet and looking at the last 20 years and saying, that's proof that I can't. And when I finally decided to get sober, it was really nothing more than me recognizing and admitting that pattern and saying, okay, I'm not a dumbass. I think I'm a pretty smart guy, and I've tried everything to manage this. I've read everything about it. I've tried to limit the substances. I've put boundaries around my own life to try to keep myself out of this stuff. And somehow, some way, and I had a million excuses as to why, I always went back and I always wound up at a point where it was a problem again. Whether that's a problem in my relationship because of it, or a problem financially because of it, or a problem physically because of it, I always wound back up there. So here we are, and there's the pattern. And really, all you need to recognize in the beginning is that that pattern will continue indefinitely. Like, I don't care if you drink. I don't care if you use anything. Like, be safe, but at the end of the day, all I would ask is that you just recognize that pattern and just understand that. So just don't lie to yourself about it. Just know that that's the way it's going to end, just like it has every other time. Every other time. That's you. That's your pattern. And it's not me saying that's you. That's you. Look at your pattern. And if you think that you're different and you're not like me, maybe that's true. I would challenge you to write it down, like actually draw this stuff out and look at the pattern. If you can recount year by year, think about volumes, think about amounts, think about everything else, and completely disregard stuff that's going on in your life and just look at your use over time. Pattern recognition. When I recognized the pattern, I had a choice all of a sudden. I could keep drinking, but I would have the knowledge of my pattern, and that didn't seem like much fun. Like, oh, here we go. I'm screwing myself when I pick this drink up. I would have to know that. The other option was I had to create a life where it wasn't part of it anymore. And because of my pattern, like one of the things that keeps me away from alcohol and drugs today, all these years later, where my mind and body, like I'm as sober as anyone, but I know my pattern. If I were to pick up a drink right now, I would not go off the rails immediately. But the pattern of my life says that it wouldn't take too long to get me back there. So why would I begin? That's what it is for me. And it's a solemn acceptance of that. That's the fact of the matter for me. That's who I am. That's what I do. And I accept myself and I'm okay with that. And listen, I suck at drinking. I just do. I love it, but I suck at it. So I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. And I'm okay with that. I'm totally cool with it. And I think that in the beginning, it's a bit of a sad feeling because it's like, oh man, I really like to get this down. You know what I mean? Because there's some things that we love about what that substance provides us, like the ease and comfort that comes with it. But what does the pattern say? What happens? And is that stuff worth it? For me, it wasn't anymore. I'm like, all right, so if that's my pattern, that's what I do. I can no longer do that. End of story. I know my pattern. I am no longer making exceptions for myself or excuses for myself or saying it was situational or whatever. That's just my pattern. And I've accepted that full stop. Like I have never negotiated with that since the day that I decided that I recognized it and I saw it. And I think that relationships, it's just as important to recognize patterns of other people. Yes, but really of ourselves. The reason that I'm able to sit here and talk to you guys every week about relationships, even though I'm still married, I have a great marriage, about what it's like to have a really bad relationship, because this isn't the only relationship in my life. I've had others that are really, really problematic that also involve addiction and narcissistic type abuse and mental health issues and all the love and the grace that comes with the close relationship and the excuses that you would like to make for someone and all the reasons that you would get hope, and that hopium just hooks you, man. And you want it to be better. And I've been through this for the last, 20 years or so with somebody. And it's been killer. It's been killer because first of all, like I'm someone that changed. And so I will always be naive in the sense that I believe in other people's capacity to change. I really do. And maybe I'm a hopeless romantic about it, but I truly do believe in people's capacity to change. I just think it's a matter of, do I have the patience and is it safe for me to stick around while they're trying? And the answer to that is not always yes. In fact, it's rarely yes. And that's just the unfortunate reality of all this, is I've been in a relationship with someone who has fed me every line of bullshit you could possibly imagine. They've guilt tripped me. They've given me the long lectures about how they're changing. They've turned around and said, if I would change, then it would make them better. And it was all on me to change. And I tried it all. I tried everything. I tried to change myself to help them. I tried to support them. I tried to walk with them through it. I tried to give motivational texts in the morning and long conversations and endless chances. I'm talking thousands upon thousands of chances. And here's my pattern. I am naive. Just going to say I'm really naive. When someone says that they're willing and they're genuinely wanting to try to change, it pulls on my heartstrings because I've changed. And I'm like, why can't I give someone the same grace that I was given? But not everyone deserves that. And that's just the reality. It's not for me to decide if your person is that person that doesn't deserve it. It's up to you. And it's up to the pattern to decide. It's up to you and your therapist or your professional that you're working with to decide. I'm just here to frame the conversation in a way that hopefully gets you to a place where you're really looking at this kind of stuff. And so this person would send me messages and it would always draw me back in. And before long, like things would start off nice and sweet and everything's good. And I was like, oh, we'll see each other and we'll get lunch. And then as soon as I broke from this person that played nice to make their reality really nice and simple, they would lash out at me and they would bark at me and they would call me horrible things. And then I would see the monster I was trying to stay away from. And I would be reminded and be like, oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I let this happen again? And then like 3 to 6 months later, I would do it again. You know, I could break distance and time, and my life would get better in this period of time. It doesn't mean I was really sad still. I was grieving like basically the entire time I didn't have this relationship. And so it sort of gave me incentive, I guess, to want to give it another shot, because I wanted that comfort and I wanted that person back in my life. I needed that relationship in some ways. I felt like I did anyway, but then I would be reminded again by their pattern and my own, that the pattern in my life is that this person will never change. And I've accepted that. And so I have to change. And that meant with my boundaries, finally, at some point going no contact, which is not a decision that I would tell anyone to take lightly. Paige and I watched this documentary last night. It was so sick, man. It was about Ruby Frankie, that like YouTuber that had the YouTube channel with their family. Some of you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a new one just came out on HBO. We saw the one on Hulu, and then there was another one on HBO, but it really went in depth into how the manipulation took place in those relationships and why so many like seemingly smart people were conned basically by this like cult leader to like go no contact with like their spouses over like the most trivial shit. And it was really, really sick. But like that's a decision you come to when you absolutely have no other options. And the pattern is such that they are not changing and they are causing you harm in the process. It doesn't just have to be physical harm either, guys. This can be emotional harm. This can be simply that this person occupies way too much time and space in your brain. And I'm all for giving relationships time and space, but there's a such thing as too much, right? This one was driving me nuts. The only fights that I had in my marriage for the last probably 4 to 5 years, like real fights, were about this person and the relationship that I was trying to manage with them. Paige had decided to go no contact before I did. And that was a really difficult part of our marriage too, because I was still trying to like dabble, thinking I could manage it, thinking that I was unique and I was special. And if you had my skill set, then you could manage it. And I could take a lot of shit, but I got to the point where I finally had to go no contact as well. But when you block emails and like in this digital age, people have a million ways of getting a hold of you. At some point, a message is going to land in your inbox of some kind. And I used to read them. I didn't always reply. Sometimes I would start to reply like 10 or 20 times, and then I would delete it all. And then maybe reply a couple of days later because it would just eat at me, man. It'd be like an itch I cannot scratch. It's like I had to reply for some reason. That hopium is so strong. And then I got to the point where I just started deleting them because I looked at the pattern in my life. And the pattern with this person in my life was horrible. I wasn't healthy. I wasn't happy. I was always trying to manage things, and it was causing problems in my life. And when this person wasn't in my life, I was grieving at times, yes, but life was easy. It was manageable. I didn't have unrest and anxiety living around me or hovering around me. I didn't have problems to manage. I wasn't trying to manage my life and theirs for them. Some people are going to be like this in your life. They're always going to need you to rescue them. And I just couldn't. Like, I have too many obligations in my life. Like, I'm just trying to get by myself, right? But then I've got 2 kids that depend on me. I've got a wife that depends on me. I've got employees that depend on me. I need to be there for people. And I don't have the bandwidth for this relationship anymore. So I finally went no contact. But when those emails and stuff would pop up, man, like at some point I just had to start deleting them without even reading them. And I know that's tough to do. I would just delete them. I would delete the text. I wouldn't even reply. I wouldn't want to know. I just wouldn't want to know. And I've always struggled like with what if they actually did start to change, and how, and then I've gone no contact. Like, how would you know? Right. And I've decided this, I think this can be helpful because this is where I'm at. I don't know what you think is best for you. Maybe you and your therapist ought to talk this through, but here's my idea with it is that I think if someone was genuinely changing, I would hear it through the grapevine. I would hear it from other people because this is a very public breakup, if you will. A lot of people know. And I think I would hear it. I'd be like, I would hear something to the effect of, yo, if you talk to so-and-so lately, like they're actually like doing the deal. Like they're getting better, like really better. And then maybe another 6 months goes by and it's like, hey, they mentioned you in passing the other day and said that they would love if you would, if you would reach out, but they would understand if you didn't. Like that's how it would have to go in my life. And then at some point, maybe I would I would reach out. But the pattern of my life is such that I know myself well enough to know when someone gives me the slightest bit of hope, I am going to go all in and I can't stop myself. And the only way to keep myself safe is to not have contact. And it wasn't like this forever. Like for the longest time, I had all these little micro rules around it. It's like only when they get disrespectful, then I'll stop trying to talk to them. I'll see them at these events, but it won't be too close to home. You know, like they won't come into our home, but I'll see them at these other events or whatever it might be. I'll keep them updated via email, but not through text messages because that's just too personal, whatever it was. And I tried and failed at every single one of those things. And it took what it took for me to understand my pattern, but I think you need to understand yours. And just as important in there is understanding other people's patterns too. So badly we want to see the best in people. And I think that that's a beautiful thing in so many ways because what's life without hope, right? Of some kind. I think we just have to be careful about who we apply it to and the patterns that we completely disregard whenever we do. I wrote this blog a while ago. It's on our website. It's called Reframing Hope. And I think it's still applicable. I haven't read it in a while, but I bet it's still applicable to what you're going through today. Check it out because hope can be beautiful, but hope can be really, really dangerous too. We can take hope and we can take ourselves to some places that are scary as we're holding it out for someone, you know. But I had to recognize this other person's patterns in my life and say, this is who they are. This is who I am. And in order for me to truly be healthy, I cannot have a relationship. I can't see the messages. I can't do any of that stuff. And I had to have the discipline to just delete them and not reach out and not, hey, how you doing? It's been a while, or like anything that they had posted. It's just couldn't do it, man. I had to just cut it out. I had to cut it out, and life has gotten better. And every so often I think about it and it makes me real sad, but most of the time I'm happy, and I'm happier now than I was before trying to manage it. Trying to manage a problem that you know is going to end in abject failure is not fun. It's like just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I got sick of living that kind of life. I think we all have different pain tolerances. I'm not telling you by any means that you need to be where I am, but it's something you ought to consider if my story sounds anything like yours. But again, talk to your professional, your therapist, whoever else in your life, and make sure that you're ready for that, because it's painful and it's lonely. But again, that was pattern recognition for me. It was recognizing myself. It was recognizing them. And I think that's one way that I can look at this. I think that there's other patterns in your life that you can look at. Like, let's say that you avoid conflict until it absolutely explodes. Like, you just keep quiet. You go with the flow. You placate people, whatever it is, because you don't want to rock the boat. And then you know that your pattern is the longer you do that, the more likely it is that you get to this point where you become a powder keg and a spark hits it and it just explodes everywhere. And if that's your pattern, then I think the fix is you need to start being more honest. You need to start sticking up for your little self a little more often, and start to, God, I can't think of the term right here. This is a 12-hour day. This is the problem with the 12-hour day at a baseball field. Advocate for yourself. Took me a while to find that one. Holy hell. Thank you guys for being listeners. I'm not sure why you listen to us sometimes, but I'm glad you're here. But to advocate for yourself and to speak up before this stuff becomes seriously problematic. We fear that people are going to call us nagging or anything else. And it's like, no, it's just, I understand my pattern. My pattern is that I'm going to let a bunch of stuff slide. And then one day I'm going to snap over the smallest thing ever. So I think it's important that in our relationship, we can talk about the little subtleties that become problems later on. I think that's just maturity more than anything. Let's say that you're the kind of person that falls in love too fast, that you jump into relationships really quickly. You go all in. You only have two speeds. Either you're single or you're married, right? There's really nothing in between. I think that you can recognize that too and do something about that. And maybe you start to take it slow. Maybe you get the relationship expert of some kind of therapist, or maybe you've got a close friends, or maybe you're working some kind of a program, whatever it might be, that keeps you on even footing, and you make commitment at appropriate times at appropriate benchmarks, whatever that might be. Because the pattern is you do this and you get hurt, and then they do too. But it's recognizing that pattern about yourself. And then let's say that you over-explain yourself. I'm like this too. That's why these episodes are always so long. It's because I over-explain things instead of just being straightforward, kind of like the one from earlier. But holding boundaries is a really tough one for people. If you suck at holding boundaries, you're going to have to do something to break that pattern. If you minimize things, I'm a minimizer as well, because I know that I got patience, and I think that other people deserve patience as well. But not everyone deserves infinite patience. Does that make sense? If you guys can hear a trumpet in the background, sorry but not sorry. Our son started playing trumpet, and this weekend they told him all he had to do was hold one note for like 10 seconds. That was his weekend assignment. And I love Kanye's music, like especially his old stuff, like through college and everything else. I grew up on that stuff. And that is not a political statement about Kanye West at all. I know he's wheels off right now. Speaking of wheels off, he's absolutely wheels off. But there's a song called All of the Lights, and it's got a trumpet intro. And so he learned the entire trumpet intro. The kid's like a whiz with instruments and stuff. But if you hear that, you might hear All of the Lights playing on a trumpet upstairs. So I apologize in advance. But anyways, if you're someone who minimizes things, you know this about yourself, you're going to have to stop doing that. And you're going to have to recognize your pattern and advocate for yourself. And you're going to have to be honest and truthful about someone's actions and what they actually mean. It's really, really tough to do. It's tough to do, one, because you're probably a really caring, empathetic, patient person, which is what makes you so amazing. The world needs more of you. The problem is that you're those things to a fault without any sort of boundaries that keeps someone from hurting you and you getting hurt, right? And so we have to find the middle ground, I suppose. And for me, like, unfortunately, there was no middle ground. I was either all in or I was all out. That's with a lot of things. I run one extreme or the other, and I have trouble kind of finding the middle. Let's talk about like goals and habits in everyday life. Let's get off of relationships and addiction for a moment. Let's talk about time management. I've got a bad one here. If there's a phone nearby me, I won't do my work. I will say I'll do my work, but I won't do my work. In order to actually get work done, like if I'm going to sit down, like when I would write blogs and stuff, or even record episodes, like my phone has to be elsewhere because I'll grab it as I'm quote unquote prepping. Before you know it, I'm scrolling. And then it's an hour later and I've wasted time. And now we've got to go do something else. And that thing just never gets done. I had to get honest with myself. My phone has to be in another room now. It has to be somewhere else. I know people that sleep with their phones outside of their room to keep them from scrolling at night, helps them sleep. Get rid of the blue light that keeps you up. It can be really, really helpful, but you have to be honest with yourself. Are you someone that finds a way to procrastinate because of other things? Okay, well, then we have to recognize it, name the problem, remove those other things from our lives. Phone goes in another room. When you have a project to do, man, you might even want to turn your Wi-Fi off. I always said that I love the idea of working at a coffee shop. But the problem is I also love the vibe of coffee shops so much that what I'll do is I'll sit there and listen to music and sip coffee and just think and never get anything done. And I just chit chat with people and I people watch. And I wish I could be a person with the discipline to sit there and work like that, but I just can't. Kudos to you if you can. I'm jealous. Fitness was another one. Like, what's your pattern? You stay up scrolling, which causes you to miss the gym. And then if you miss the gym, do you know that you won't go at lunch? And then if you know that if you don't go at lunch, you're going to go somewhere else for lunch. And so since you missed your workout that morning, F it, what's the point? I'll just start tomorrow. And so you eat like shit for lunch. And then at the end of the night, you feel horrible and you become resolute to start tomorrow. And then you just never do. And for me, it usually started with not getting to bed on time and being disciplined enough, because I knew if I got my workout in first thing, it set the tone for the day, and everything else that followed was solid gold. I lost a ton of weight. I got in the best shape of my entire life working the discipline of that simple philosophy of just getting to bed on time, getting a gallon of water, clean protein, clean vegetables, no sugar whatsoever, except for one meal a week. And I got down to like 8 or 9% body fat. I was in the best shape of my entire life. Never dreamed I could be that fit. But I had to become like crazy about it because I love sugar. Like after drugs and alcohol, sugar was my thing. I gained I've mentioned it before, like 70 or 80 pounds my first year sober eating sugar. If it's in the house, I will find a way to eat it. And I swear to God, I can have a bad day, stressed out. If there's sugar in the house, it's like I black out and I find myself like halfway through a bag of churros before I even realize what I've done. And I'm like, oh no. Like it really is like it's compulsion. Like really it is. Like I can't stop myself. My solution, I can't keep it in the house anymore. That's how bad I suck at it. I just don't buy it. If I don't buy it, I set myself up for success. So I had to put guardrails in my life like this. I had to recognize my pattern, though, in order to do it. Because what I think I want to do is if I keep it in the house, on Sunday when I want to have my cheat meal, I don't want to have to go to the store. I just want to have it here and I'll eat it. The problem is I can't do that. I will eat that shit throughout the week. So if I'm serious about my goal and I recognize my pattern, I have to do the inconvenient thing, which is go to the store on Sunday, which is a horrible thing to do if you're hungry, by the way. You buy the craziest shit, like letting a stoner loose with the infinite credit card in a shopping market. It's just nuts. But anyway, you go, you get your snacks, you come back, eat them, and then I would throw the rest away. Like I would literally buy a box of like Hostess snack cakes and I would eat like one or two out of it and I would throw the rest of the box away. I know that's wasteful. That's the only way I could do it because I know my pattern. My pattern is that I'll have a stressful day and doesn't matter how glued I am to my process and how bad I want my goal. If it's around, I'm going to fucking do it, period. So I had to recognize that. Finances, some people really struggle with finances. I did it one time. Drugs and alcohol fueled. Since then, our finances are really straight. But a lot of people have a shopping problem. They do. Shopping feels good, right? There's a lot of people who get sober. We've talked about transitional addiction, switching addictions. Whenever a lot of people get sober, they start buying shit. They'll go all in on something like it's golf or whatever, and they go get like the best golf clubs and the best golf clothes, and they're buying everything they can think of to like fund this new like hobby or whatever. But it's just as much about the buying shit and the pursuit of research and ordering shit and getting stuff and the dopamine rush we get from that as it is about the actual enjoyment of that hobby when you're on the course or whatever it is that you're doing. Shopping feels good, man, and it can become a problem for people. At a time in my life, I literally had to cut up a credit card, cut that son of a bitch in half. I didn't order a new one until I had paid it off. And it took me over a year to pay this thing down because I knew if I had it, I'd find a reason, man. I'd be in a good mood one day. And it's like, what's another couple hundred? We'll figure it out. Ain't no big deal. I literally just had to cut it up and get rid of it. I know credit cards serve a purpose. I'm not telling anyone if this is how you're surviving right now in this tough economy, not to do that. But if you're using it on purchases that you don't really need, get rid of it in your life. Put some guardrails up. Call the bank, put a daily limit on it or whatever it might be. Because retail therapy has that name for a reason, right? Some people use retail therapy to treat a lot of other shit that's going on in their lives. And then guilt follows and then actual financial problems follow because you can't cash flow that bill. You've got an empty budget. Here's another thing I've done. Our finances are in good shape now, but I will still wait generally between 24 and 48 hours before I make a purchase. Let's say there's a pair of sneakers that I want. I did this recently with the pair of sneakers I've wanted for a while. They re-released them and they came out and I'm like, ooh, those are expensive. Okay, I even said to myself, I'll give it 2 weeks. And I put a reminder in my phone and said, if you still want them today, buy them. When that day came around, I didn't buy them. Somehow like that, the FOMO of it had kind of faded and I was cool with just letting them pass. Maybe if I come across them at some point for cheap, I'll get them. But if not, oh well, I'm good. But that day I would have done it and then probably regretted it and they would have sat in my closet and just sat around. So give yourself 24-hour rules. Give yourself a 48-hour rule or be like me in like a week or two sometimes. I put a reminder in my phone. I give myself permission. If I still want this in a week or 2 weeks, then I'll buy it. I like baseball gloves. They're just cool. Like the artistry of them. And I would have a room full of gloves, but I always do this to myself. And I say like, if you still want it plus I don't even play baseball. I'm a coach, right? So I warm kids every once in a while. It's just more just like having it and looking at it. It's cool. But I tell myself like, you still want it in a week. And I've only bought one glove in like the last 3 years, but I've wanted to buy probably 100 gloves. And a lot of other things like that in my life too. So just give yourself some time, pause, and you can do that. So let's talk about stress coping as well. Let's say that doom scrolling, this can be really rough depending on your algorithm, especially if you're really into politics and news. It's not a good time to be into politics and news, really. There's always some story that was designed to drive you crazy, rage bait you, or to get you mad at the other side or whatever it is. This is why like we've always said, like when it comes to politics, apolitical as far as you're concerned. And on a personal level, pretty pretty even keeled about things, not an extremist one way or the other, because politics and news really upsets me. And I've come to recognize there's not as much I can do that I would like to do. And so it just leaves me feeling helpless and angry. And the more I scroll and read about it, the worse I feel. So I had to literally unsubscribe from a lot of stuff, from a lot. I read the New York Times finance stuff and I play their games. I don't read much else. I stay informed, but from a distance. Wall Street Journal, I'll read that when it comes to business and logistics and finance and things like that in the markets. But other than that, I don't get too involved because I know myself. It makes me anxious. It makes me angry. It gets me mad at like random people that I don't even know that did nothing to me personally. So I'll go to the gym. I'll come home and I'll play guitar for a while. I'll just zone out and I'll play my guitar. I'll do something that calms me down. And I know that that's my pattern. My pattern is I'm going to get worked up. I'm going to get mad at all these people that I don't even know, like this giant group of people that I've never met. I'm sure they're lovely. Yeah. And I just get pissed about it for no reason. And so I just don't do that. I have to put guardrails in my life. So let's talk about how you can apply this to your life. Maybe throughout this episode, you've been thinking about, oh, that's a good idea. But it really something you can do. You can do all the things I'm about to tell you. But if you haven't recognized your pattern and accepted it as something that will not change, believe this is a well-oiled machine in your life at this point, and it probably won't change. Very low chance it changes without you doing something about it. I would say never, but I don't like absolutes. But let's just go ahead and say this will never change until you do something about it. Ask yourself this. Let's write down your top 3 repeated patterns. Maybe it's, and be brutally honest, right? Let's say that you got a problem with some kind of an addiction, substance or behavior, gambling, porn, if it's alcohol, drugs, whatever it might be. Where do these patterns lead me? Do not sugarcoat the shit. Be honest with yourself. What role are you playing? This is the next question to write down. You're going to journal this stuff. Again, I want you to journal this stuff. Let's start over. Write down your top three repeated patterns. Next, ask where they always lead you. And don't bullshit yourself. Don't bullshit me. Don't bullshit the pen you're writing with. Where do they always lead? Be honest. Now, what role do you play in keeping it alive? What role are you playing in keeping that alive? Even when someone in my life was harming me, my want and need for that figure in my life, which isn't a bad thing. That is nothing wrong with wanting closeness with someone in your life. Like that, please don't ever mistake anything that we've ever said on the show for that. Like you are not wrong for wanting connection at all. I just had to recognize that the person I was asking connection from wasn't offering connection. I wanted them to, they were giving me a semblance of that, and I turned it into something else. I was playing a role in keeping it alive the more that I showed up, trying to either give them more chances when they had shown me thousands of times they weren't willing, or by lying to myself about the truth of who they really were and some of their real actions without minimizing them. So ask what role you keep in playing, or what role you play in keeping this alive. And then finally, what's one boundary? What's an environmental change or a new habit that can disrupt this loop? Let's say that it's like my thing where you can't help but like reaching out to someone that you know that you need to move on from. You're gonna have to start deleting those emails and getting honest about it, or getting a buddy, someone in your accountability circle that you can talk to and say, hey, I got a message. Help me get the strength to delete this shit. Help me, give me the strength not to call and reach out and ask what's going on. Because I know the pattern is as soon as I do that, they know how to get to me and they're going to drag me back in, because that's what they always do, right? Just be honest with yourself. If it's drugs or alcohol, recognize your pattern. And maybe that means that you need to go get real treatment, get help. Maybe it means you got to have some guardrails in your life. Maybe it's like a Soberlink, or maybe it's some sort of a program, whatever it is, to keep you out of it, because it's not going to be different this time. It's just not. Look at the pattern. And what does the pattern say? Do you think that the 51,285th time you do this is going to be different? No, it's going to be like the previous 51,284 times. It's just going to keep happening. Just accept that. Just pretend that is an absolute fact. What do you do next? Right? I think it's just our mind's way of trying to rationalize and make things easy and find comfort and ease, because making changes is freaking hard. It's uncomfortable shit. But maybe you can't keep alcohol or sugar in your house. Maybe you're like me. Don't reply from to texts or messages or emails from people who have proven themselves unsafe, or their wants for you back in their life. Because remember, they're getting something from you too. And it's not always just like support because they need you. A lot of times because you make them feel good when they should probably check themselves, and you make them feel good about themselves when they should just be looking at the truth. And really some of that pain is necessary because it drives change in their lives. I'm not saying abandon people, don't get me wrong, but maybe it looks different for everyone. Just use your common sense here, guys. Yeah. And if you miss a workout or something like that, what are you going to do different tomorrow? That's actually different. What do you know that you need to do? Like, what's the one thing? And it's always the painful thing. And like, that's what's funny about me. And I think everyone else that ever asks like the question to themselves or out loud, like, what do I need to do? You already know what needs to change. You know, it just sucks. And like, it's cool. I give you the biggest hug right now. I'm like, it'll suck, but it'll get better. It will not get better until it sucks. It'll suck first and then you'll accept it later, but it's going to suck for a while. And that's the power of community. That's why I think that our free Facebook community is so powerful, because there's people in there who literally have people walking through hell with them, and they're able to do it because they've got support. They've got someone they can text or message or just post to the group and get feedback from. Maybe you've got a therapist in your life or a coach or someone who's excellent, right? Psychologist, whoever your support person is, because you're going to need support in doing this. Doing it alone sucks anyway. Like, it's really lonely. You're unlikely to make these sorts of changes without some kind of accountability. But remember, you've got to do the work. You've got to reach out. They can't read your mind. So remember, so like, I want so badly for people to be able to make the changes they want that would make them happy. But I also understand like why it's so difficult. And so I hope an episode like this can kind of give you some idea about how important pattern recognition and honesty are to actually making changes. And don't beat yourself up about it either. Please don't beat yourself up. Don't just whip yourself. It's just about being honest with yourself, and you can be gentle and honest and brutal at the same time. Believe it or not, you truly can. Pain's really only meaningful if we're going to do something with it. What's the sense in feeling it if we're not going to turn it into something beautiful later, right? But the facts of your life are what you repeat, not what you hope, not what you wish. They're what you repeat. Those are the facts. That's who we are. As much as even back then I could say my intentions weren't to hurt anyone, the fact of the matter is that I was abusive. That's who I am. That's the truth of me. That's who I am. Can't deny it. Like, it's there. There's proof. It's out there. And in your life, there's a million things that you could write down and really understand who you are better. If you're not journaling, please journal. If you don't know how to journal, I'm pretty sure Paige has done episodes on this. I think we did an episode on this too. Go check those out. I know that she's done some Paige's perspectives. I know that we've done some episodes. Look into it. If you have a therapist, talk to them about it. Journaling's great. Go back and actually read this stuff, because when you start to see it clearly, you can start to choose differently. And that's when the good stuff happens. Like, that's when the really cool stuff happens. So you may not control someone else's pattern, but you can stop playing a role in it. That's the fact, is that you're not going to be able to change anybody else. You're not. I wish it worked that way, y'all. I do. I wish I could just give you the magic words that just transform someone and everyone could be happy with little to no effort. But that's just generally not the way it works. That's just not. So future you, I need you to know this. Future you is counting on today you to make a decision that benefits you tomorrow. Future you is counting on you. Take care of her or him, or whoever it is, by making decisions today to set yourself up for success. Because you already know what the future looks like, because you've got a pattern that proves it. Once you accept that, things become a whole lot clearer. And I hope this is helpful for you. It's been helpful for me throughout my entire life. This has been like one of the this has been one of like the game changers for me in my life. Like, when I started to really do this and get serious about it, I started to make like traction, and I started to actually make changes, and it was amazing. But it's just about being honest. And that's difficult. It's really tough to do, but I hope that you're able to take something from this. I hope you're able to build something amazing. And I would love to hear from you what you're working on. If you've never suggested an episode to us, you can do that by going to the episode description right now, and you can suggest an episode. You can shoot us a message on Instagram or TikTok. We love hearing from listeners, truly. We generally don't answer a lot of questions, but we do love hearing from you guys. I love to know what you're doing with this stuff. So do that if you haven't, and please leave us a review. What the heck that noise was. Maybe that's the sound that it's time to go. That's what that sound was. So thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, I'm Matt, and I'll see you.